Trial day arrived with storm clouds gathering over Seoul. Amara woke early, her stomach in knots. She dressed carefully in professional attire, preparing for a day of translating at the courthouse. Officer Park arrived promptly at 7, and they headed to the Seoul District Court where the Kim family trial would unfold. The building was surrounded by media and protesters, the case having captured national attention. Inside, security was tight. Min-jae met her at the entrance, his expression unreadable. "Stay close," was all he said before disappearing into the courtroom. Amara took her position in the translator booth, watching as the proceedings began. Min-jae was magnificent, commanding, precise, devastating in his arguments. But she could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his eyes occasionally flickered to where she sat. The morning session went smoothly. Min-jae systematically dismantled the defense's arguments, presenting evidence of money laundering, corruption, and violence. The Kim family patriarch sat stone-faced throughout, but his sons weren't as controlled. One of them, Kim Tae-sung, kept glancing at Amara with a smile that made her skin crawl. During the lunch recess, Officer Park escorted her to a private room where Min-jae was waiting. The moment the door closed, he pulled her into his arms. "How are you holding up?" His hands moved over her back, checking, reassuring himself she was safe. "I'm fine," Amara assured him. "You're doing amazing in there." He pulled back to look at her, his eyes intense. "This afternoon, we'll present our final evidence. Once that's done, they'll have no choice but to accept defeat." But Min-jae's confidence proved premature. Halfway through the afternoon session, chaos erupted. A man in the gallery stood up, pulling out a gun. "Nobody move!" Screams filled the courtroom. Security rushed forward, but 2 more men revealed weapons, creating a standoff. In the translator booth, Amara froze as one of the gunmen turned toward her. "You," he called out in Korean, "Jung Min-jae's woman, come down here, now." Terror flooded through her. In the courtroom, Min-jae had gone completely still, his face a mask of deadly calm. But his eyes burned with a fury that promised violence. "Don't," he said, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Don't you dare touch her." The gunman laughed. "Come down, Miss Wells, or we start shooting judges." Amara's hands shook as she stood. Officer Park grabbed her arm, but what choice did they have? Lives were at stake. She walked down the stairs with her head high, refusing to show fear. The gunman grabbed her roughly, pressing the weapon to her temple. Pain exploded through her skull as he yanked her hair. "Drop the case, Prosecutor Jung," he demanded, "or she dies." Min-jae's expression was carved from ice, but she could see the terror beneath. "Let her go. This is between us." "No, this ends now. You withdraw the charges, or we paint these walls with her. Brain." The gun pressed harder, making Amara whimper. That sound broke something in Min-jae. His hands clenched. "You've just made the worst mistake of your life." Everything happened at once. Security burst through the side doors, tactical teams flooding the courtroom. Gunfire erupted. The man holding Amara spun, and she felt herself falling. Strong arms caught her, Min-jae somehow having crossed the distance impossibly fast. He shielded her body with his, dragging her behind the prosecutor's table as bullets flew overhead. "Stay down," he commanded, his body covering hers completely. She could hear shouting, more gunfire, people screaming. Then silence. Min-jae slowly rose, checking the room before helping her up. All 3 gunmen were subdued, bleeding but alive. The Kim family members were in handcuffs, their last desperate gambit having failed. But Min-jae wasn't looking at them. He was looking at Amara, his hands moving over her frantically. "Are you hurt? Did they hurt you?" "I'm okay," Amara managed, though she was shaking violently. Min-jae pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. She felt him trembling against her, felt the rapid beating of his heart. "I thought," his voice broke, "when he put that gun to your head, I thought—" He couldn't finish. Amara held him just as tightly, tears streaming down her face. Around them, the courtroom was in chaos, but they stood in their own world, anchored by each other. Finally, Min-jae pulled back, his hands framing her face. "You're leaving Seoul. Tonight. I'm putting you on a plane back home where you'll be safe." The words hit her like a physical blow. "No. Amara, this isn't negotiable. They tried to kill you. And they failed." She gripped his wrists. "I'm not leaving you." Min-jae's jaw clenched. "I can't protect you if you're here. I can't focus on finishing this case if I'm terrified every second that they'll hurt you. Then let me be your strength instead of your weakness." She held his gaze. "I'm not abandoning you, Min-jae. Not when you need me most." Conflict warred in his features. Before he could respond, detectives approached, needing statements. The next hours passed in a blur of police questions, medical checks, and paperwork. By the time they finished, it was past midnight. Min-jae hadn't left her side once, his hand constantly on her arm, her back, her hand. Claiming her, reassuring himself she was still there. Finally, they were released. Min-jae led her to his car, but instead of driving to her apartment, he headed toward the outskirts of the city. "Where are we going?" Amara asked. "My private residence. You're not going back to that apartment. It's not safe anymore." His tone brooked no argument. They drove in silence through dark streets, eventually turning onto a private road that led to a sprawling modern house nestled in the hills. Security gates opened at their approach. Inside, the house was stunning. All clean, lines, floor-to-ceiling windows, and expensive minimalism. But Amara barely noticed. She was exhausted, traumatized, running on adrenaline that was quickly fading. Min-jae seemed to sense her state. He led her upstairs to a guest room. "Stay here tonight. Tomorrow we'll figure out next steps, but right now you need rest." He turned to leave, but Amara caught his hand. "Don't go." The words escaped before she could stop them. Min-jae froze. "Amara, if I stay—" "I don't want to be alone," she whispered. "Please, just stay with me." She saw the war in his eyes, control versus desire, propriety versus need. Desire won. He nodded slowly. "I'll stay." He removed his jacket and shoes, but kept his shirt and pants on, maintaining some semblance of boundaries. They lay on the bed together, and Amara curled into his side, her head on his chest. His arms came around her, holding her close. "I was so scared," she admitted quietly. "When he put that gun to my head, all I could think was that I'd never told you how I felt." Min-jae's arms tightened. "How do you feel?" His voice was rough, careful. Amara lifted her head to look at him. In the dim light from the hallway, his features were sharp and beautiful. "Like I'm falling in love with you," she said honestly. "Like you've become the most important thing in my world, and that terrifies me almost as much as that gun did." Min-jae made a sound that was part groan, part laugh. His hand came up, cupping her face with heartbreaking gentleness. "I fell in love with you in that elevator," he confessed. "I've been fighting it ever since, telling myself it was too fast, too dangerous, too impossible." His thumb traced her lower lip. "But watching you walk down those courtroom stairs toward danger, knowing I might lose you, it broke something in me, Amara. I can't pretend anymore. I can't be cautious. I love you. Completely. Irrevocably." The confession stole her breath. Then Min-jae was kissing her, deep and desperate, pouring everything he felt into the press of his mouth against hers. Amara kissed him back, with equal fervor, her hands sliding into his hair, pulling him closer. The kiss turned heated, consuming, Min-jae rolled them until he was above her, his weight pressing her into the mattress in a way that felt possessive and right. His mouth moved from her lips to her jaw, her neck, finding the sensitive spot that made her gasp his name. "Say it again," he commanded against her skin. "Tell me you love me." "I love you," Amara breathed. "I love you, Min-jae." He kissed her again, his hands exploring, learning her curves through her clothes. Heat built between them, slow and inevitable. When Min-jae's fingers found the buttons of her blouse, she didn't stop him. When he paused, giving her a chance to object, she pulled him back down instead. "I want this," she whispered. "I want you." His eyes darkened with hunger. "You're sure? Because once I have you, there's no going back. You'll be mine in every way that matters. Promise?" The single word was her surrender. Min-jae groaned, capturing her mouth again as his hands moved with purpose. Clothes disappeared slowly, reverently. Each piece of exposed skin was worshipped with kisses, touches, murmured words of devotion. When they finally came together, skin to skin, Amara gasped at the intimacy of it. Min-jae stilled, his eyes finding hers. "You've never..." He'd felt her innocence. "No," Amara admitted. "Only you. It's only ever been you." Something fierce and possessive flared in his expression. "I'll be gentle," he promised. "I'll make it good for you." And he did. He took his time, patient despite the hunger she could feel thrumming through him. He learned what made her gasp, what made her moan his name. When he finally claimed her fully, the initial pain was quickly swallowed by pleasure so intense she thought she might shatter. Min-jae moved with controlled precision, watching her face, gauging her every reaction. He made love to her like it was an art form, a devotion, a claiming. When release finally crashed over them both, Amara cried out his name, clinging to him as waves of sensation overwhelmed her. Min-jae buried his face in her neck, his own release tearing through him with devastating intensity. For a long moment, they stayed like that, wrapped in each other, hearts racing in sync. Later, as they lay tangled in the sheets, Min-jae's hands continued to explore her body, mapping every curve, every mark he'd left on her skin. "Mine," he murmured against her shoulder. "You're mine now, Amara. No going back." She should have been alarmed by the possessiveness. Instead, she felt claimed in the best way. "Yours," she agreed. They made love twice more that night, each time more intense than the last. Min-jae was insatiable, worshipping her body with a hunger that seemed infinite. By the time dawn broke, Amara was deliciously exhausted, her body marked by his passion, her heart completely captured. She lay in his arms, watching him sleep, and felt certainty settle over her. This man was her future. No matter what dangers came, they would face them together. When Min-jae woke, his eyes found hers immediately, and the tender smile that crossed his face made her heart skip. "Good morning, beautiful." He pulled her closer, kissing her slowly. But as the kiss deepened, reality intruded. Amara suddenly felt shy, aware of her nakedness, aware of what they'd done. She pulled back slightly, and Min-jae noticed immediately. "What's wrong?" "Nothing, I just..." She struggled to articulate her suddenly tangled emotions. "This happened so fast. Last night, in the moment, it felt right. But now I'm wondering..." Fear lanced through her. "Do you regret this? Was this just physical for you?" Min-jae sat up, his expression alarmed. "What? No, Amara, look at me." He cupped her face. "Last night was everything. You're everything. Don't doubt that. Don't doubt us." But doubt had already taken root. In the cold light of morning, Amara's insecurities bloomed. She was just a translator, curvy and inexperienced. He was Jung Min-jae, powerful, sought after, a man who could have anyone. What if this was just passion? What if once the danger passed, he realized she wasn't enough? "I should go," she said abruptly, pulling away from him and gathering her scattered clothes. "I need to think. Process everything. Min-jae's expression darkened. You're running. It wasn't a question. I'm not. You are. He stood, magnificent and unashamed in his nakedness. You're scared, so you're running. Amara, don't do this. I need space, she insisted, her heart breaking even as she said it. Last night was intense. The shooting, the emotions, this. She gestured between them. I just need time to think clearly. Min-jae stared at her for a long moment. If you walk out that door, I'm coming after you. You understand that? I'll give you today. But then I'm coming for you, and I won't let you push me away. The promise was both threat and devotion. Amara dressed quickly, her hands shaking. She could feel his eyes on her, burning into her back. When she was finally presentable, she forced herself to meet his gaze. I'm sorry. Don't apologize for being scared, Min-jae said quietly. Just don't let fear win. But fear had already won. Amara called for a car, and Min-jae watched from the window as she left, his expression unreadable. The moment the car pulled away, his phone was in his hand, alerting his security team to keep watch over her. She might run, but she'd never be out of his sight. Never unprotected. Amara spent the day in her apartment, pacing, crying, trying to make sense of her emotions. She loved him. She knew that with certainty. But love also terrified her. What if she wasn't enough? What if the passion faded and he realized she was ordinary? Her phone buzzed constantly, calls and texts from Min-jae that she couldn't bring herself to answer. By evening, she'd made a decision. She would resign from her position and return home. It was the only way to protect her heart, the only way to give him space to realize what he truly wanted. She started packing, tears streaming down her face. A knock on the door made her freeze. She checked the peephole and saw Officer Park. Relief and disappointment warred within her. She opened the door. Miss Wells, I need you to come with me. What's wrong? Amara asked, alarm bells ringing. Is Min-jae okay? There's been a situation. Please, come with me now. Officer Park's tone was urgent. Amara grabbed her bag and followed, her heart racing. But as they reached the street, something felt wrong. The car waiting wasn't the usual security vehicle. Too late, she realized her mistake. Hands grabbed her from behind, a cloth pressed over her mouth and nose. Chemical sweetness filled her lungs. She tried to fight, but her body wouldn't cooperate. As consciousness faded, she heard Officer Park's voice, cold and unfamiliar. Sorry, Miss Wells. Nothing personal, just business. The world went black. Amara woke to pain. Her head pounded, her wrists were bound behind her back, and she was in a dark room that smelled of dampness and decay. Panic flooded through her as memory returned. She'd been kidnapped. Officer Park, or whoever that woman really was, had betrayed her. She struggled against the ropes binding her, but they were too tight. A door opened, light flooding in painfully. Two men entered, their faces familiar from the courtroom, members of the Kim family's organization. She's awake, one called over his shoulder. Another figure entered, and Amara's blood ran cold. Kim Tae-sung, the patriarch's oldest son, smiled down at her. Miss Wells, so nice of you to join us. He crouched in front of her. You're going to help us send a message to Prosecutor Jung. He'll kill you for this, Amara said, her voice raspy. All of you? Kim Tae-sung laughed. Maybe, but you'll be dead long before he finds us. He pulled out his phone, starting a video recording. Say hello to your lover, Miss Wells. Let him know what happens to people who get in our way. He grabbed her hair, yanking her head back. Amara bit back a scream, refusing to give him the satisfaction. Tell him to drop the charges. Tell him to forget everything he knows about our family, or you die, slowly, painfully. When she remained silent, he slapped her hard enough to split her lip. Blood filled her mouth. Defiant. He liked that part. Let him see your strength before we break it. The recording ended, and Tae-sung sent it. Then he turned to his men. Watch her. Don't touch her yet. Let him suffer with anticipation first. Across the city, Min-jae was in his office when the video arrived. The moment he saw Amara bound and bleeding, something inside him shattered. Cold rage, unlike anything he'd ever felt, consumed him. He'd given her space like she'd asked, tracked her discreetly, waited for her to come back to him. And while he'd been respecting her wishes, his enemies had taken her. He called together his security team, his most trusted detectives, and several contacts who operated outside legal boundaries. Find her, he ordered, his voice deadly calm. I don't care what it takes. Burn down every Kim property until someone talks. And when we find them, his smile was terrifying. No mercy, not anymore. His team scattered to follow orders. Min-jae stared at the paused video of Amara's face, bruised and defiant. Hold on, love, he whispered. I'm coming, and heaven help anyone who stands in my way. The search took 6 hours. 6 hours of Min-jae unleashing every resource he had, legal and otherwise. He called in favors from underground contacts, pressured informants, threatened anyone connected to the Kim family. His team raided warehouses, interrogated associates, left a trail of destruction in their wake. Finally, a tip came through. An abandoned factory on the outskirts of the city. Min-jae assembled a tactical team, but he was going in first. Nothing would stop him from reaching Amara. When they arrived at the factory, Min-jae didn't wait for backup. He breached the door with deadly efficiency, his weapon drawn. Inside, chaos erupted. Kim family soldiers opened fire, but Min-jae moved like death incarnate, taking them down with precision. His team followed, securing the building room by room. Amara heard the gunfire and knew. Min-jae had found her. Relief and terror warred within her. The door to her cell burst open, and Tae-sung stood there, his gun pointed at her head. Call him off, or you die right now. But before she could respond, the wall behind him exploded inward. Min-jae came through it like an avenging angel, his weapon trained on Tae-sung with unwavering accuracy. Step away from her. His voice was ice and fury. Now. Tae-sung laughed, pressing the gun harder against Amara's temple. You shoot me, I shoot her. Stalemate. You think so? Min-jae's smile was terrifying. You pulled the trigger the moment you touched her. You just don't know you're dead yet. Then everything happened in a blur. Min-jae fired, his aim perfect. The bullet hit Tae-sung's shoulder, spinning him away from Amara. Min-jae closed the distance impossibly fast, disarming him and delivering a blow that shattered the man's jaw. Then Min-jae was at Amara's side, cutting her bonds, his hands gentle despite the violence he'd just unleashed. I've got you. You're safe. You're safe now. He pulled her into his arms, and Amara broke, sobbing against his chest. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have left. I shouldn't have... Shh, not your fault. None of this is your fault. He held her tightly, his own hands shaking. I thought I'd lost you. I thought... His voice broke. Around them, his team secured the building, arresting the remaining Kim soldiers. But Min-jae only had eyes for Amara. He checked her injuries, his jaw clenching at every bruise, every mark. They'll pay for this, every single one of them. I just want to go home, Amara whispered. Take me home, Min-jae. Always, he promised. He carried her out of that factory, refusing to let her walk, refusing to let her go. The drive back to his house was silent, both of them processing what had happened. Inside, Min-jae carried her straight to the bathroom, drawing a warm bath. He stayed with her, washing away the evidence of her ordeal with gentle hands. I love you, he said quietly as he worked. I need you to know that. What happened between us wasn't just physical. It wasn't just passion. You're everything to me, Amara. My beginning and my end. Tears slid down her face. I was scared. I thought I wasn't enough for you. Not enough? He tilted her chin up, making her meet his fierce gaze. You're everything. You're the only thing that matters. Don't you understand? You've ruined me for anyone else. You're it for me. After the bath, Min-jae carried her to his bedroom, not the guest room, but his own personal space. He dressed her in his shirt, tucked her into his bed, and held her close. Sleep, he commanded. I've got you. For the first time in days, Amara felt safe. She curled into him, and sleep claimed her quickly. But Min-jae stayed awake, watching over her, his mind already planning. When she woke hours later, it was to find him still there, still watching her with that intense gaze. What are you thinking? She asked softly. That I'm done waiting, done being patient, done giving you space. He propped himself up on one elbow. I want you in my life, Amara, permanently, completely. No more running, no more fear. Her heart raced. What are you saying? Min-jae reached into the nightstand drawer and pulled out a small velvet box. Amara's breath caught. I bought this the day after our first date, he admitted. I knew then that you were the one. I was just waiting for you to catch up. He opened the box, revealing a stunning diamond ring. Marry me, Amara. Be my wife. Let me spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of you. Tears flooded her eyes. You're crazy. We've known each other less than 2 months. I know, and I don't care. His smile was soft, vulnerable. I've never been more certain of anything. You're my person, Amara, the only one I'll ever want. So marry me. Choose me the way I've chosen you. She stared at the ring, at this impossible man, at the future he was offering. Every logical reason to say no warred with the certainty in her heart. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. Joy transformed Min-jae's features. He slid the ring onto her finger, then kissed her with such tenderness that more tears fell. No more running, he murmured against her lips. Never, Amara promised. I'm done running from us. The next days passed in a whirlwind. The Kim family's remaining leadership was arrested, their empire dismantled. Min-jae's case concluded with convictions across the board. Amara recovered from her ordeal, surrounded by Min-jae's constant care and devotion. And through it all, they planned their future together. Min-jae wanted a small ceremony, just close friends and family. But he wanted it soon. I've waited long enough to make you mine officially, he said. They settled on a month away, giving them time to prepare, but not so long that either could lose their nerve. The wedding was intimate and beautiful, held at Min-jae's house with the city lights twinkling below. Amara wore a simple white dress that made Min-jae's breath catch. When they said their vows, his voice was rough with emotion. You saved me, he told her, from a life of cold isolation, from myself. You taught me how to feel, how to love, how to live. I promise to spend every day showing you how grateful I am that you chose me. Amara's vows were just as heartfelt. You saw me when I felt invisible. You protected me when I felt vulnerable. You loved me when I didn't think I was worthy of love. I promise to stand beside you, to be your strength when you're weak, to love you through every storm. When they kissed as husband and wife, the small gathering erupted in applause. The wedding night, Min-jae carried her over the threshold of their bedroom with hungry intent. Finally, he murmured against her lips. Finally, you're completely mine. What followed was passionate and intense, Min-jae making love to his wife with a hunger that seemed endless. He worshipped every inch of her body, whispering words of love and possession against her skin. By the time they finally collapsed in exhaustion, Amara understood what it meant to be married to a man like Jung Min-jae. His appetite for her was insatiable, his need to claim her absolute, and she loved every overwhelming moment of it. Over the following weeks, Their honeymoon period was marked by passion that left her breathless and exhausted. Min-jae seemed unable to get enough of her, and she found herself equally addicted to his touch. 3 months into their marriage, Amara woke feeling nauseous. At first, she attributed it to the rich meal from the night before. But when the nausea persisted for a week, accompanied by exhaustion and tender breasts, realization dawned. She bought a pregnancy test, her hands shaking as she waited for the results. 2 lines, positive. Joy and terror flooded through her in equal measure. She was pregnant with Min-jae's child. That evening, when he came home from work, she was waiting nervously in the living room. "What's wrong?" he asked immediately, reading her tension. "Nothing's wrong. At least, I don't think so. I hope not." She took a deep breath. "I'm pregnant." For a moment, Min-jae just stared at her. Then his face transformed with pure joy. "You're pregnant? We're having a baby?" "Yes," Amara confirmed, tears in her eyes. "Are you happy? I know we didn't plan—" She couldn't finish because Min-jae had crossed the room and pulled her into his arms, kissing her deeply. "Happy doesn't begin to cover it," he said when they finally broke apart. "You're carrying my child, our child. God, Amara, I love you so much." His hands moved to her still flat stomach reverently. "I'm going to be a father." Seeing the wonder on his face made all Amara's fears dissolve. They would figure this out together, just like they'd figured out everything else. That night, Min-jae made love to her with such gentleness, such tenderness, that she cried from the beauty of it. He worshipped her body, already treating her like she was precious, fragile. "Thank you," he whispered against her stomach. "Thank you for choosing me, for giving me this family, for making me the luckiest man alive." The pregnancy progressed smoothly. Min-jae was attentive to the point of being overprotective, hiring the best doctors, researching every aspect of pregnancy, making sure Amara had everything she needed. He talked to her stomach every night, telling their baby stories about how he'd met their mother. "She walked into that elevator and changed my entire life," he would say, his hands spread across her growing belly. "I took one look at her and I knew. This was the woman I'd been waiting for, the only one I'd ever love." Amara would run her fingers through his hair, overwhelmed with love for this man who'd become her everything. They prepared the nursery together, choosing soft colors and comfortable furniture. They argued playfully about names and laughed about their future as parents. 9 months after their wedding, Amara went into labor. Min-jae was a wreck, pacing the hospital room, holding her hand so tightly during contractions that she had to remind him to breathe. "I can't do this," Amara gasped during a particularly painful contraction. "Yes, you can," Min-jae said fiercely. "You're the strongest person I know. You survived gunmen, survived being kidnapped, survived my insatiable appetite." That made her laugh despite the pain. "You're comparing childbirth to your libido?" "I'm just saying you're a survivor," he said with a small smile, kissing her forehead. "Our baby is lucky to have you as a mother." After hours of labor, their daughter entered the world with a strong cry that made both parents weep with joy. Min-jae cut the cord with shaking hands, and when the nurse placed their baby in Amara's arms, the expression on his face was one of pure wonder. "She's perfect," he whispered, his finger gently stroking their daughter's tiny cheek. "Just like her mother." They named her Hana, which meant one in Korean, because she was their one, their only, the physical manifestation of their love. As Amara held their daughter and watched her husband's face, she marveled at how far they'd come. From that first elevator encounter to this moment, it had been a journey of danger, passion, fear, and ultimately love that conquered everything. 2 years later, Amara stood in the same house where she first made love to Min-jae, watching through the window as he played with Hana in the garden. Their daughter toddled around on chubby legs, chasing butterflies while Min-jae followed protectively behind her. Amara's hand rested on her stomach, where their second child grew. Min-jae looked up, catching her watching, and the smile he gave her still made her heart skip. He scooped up Hana and headed inside. "Mama!" Hana called excitedly, reaching for her. Amara took their daughter, kissing her soft cheek, while Min-jae's arms wrapped around them both. "My girls," he murmured, his voice full of contentment. "My whole world." Later, after Hana was asleep, Min-jae found Amara in their bedroom, preparing for bed. He came up behind her, his hands sliding around to rest on her growing belly. "Do you remember?" he said quietly. "When you said you couldn't walk because you were so tired? Those first days after our wedding?" Amara laughed softly, leaning back against him. "How could I forget? You were insatiable." "I still am," he admitted, turning her in his arms. "I still can't get enough of you." He kissed her then, deep and slow, the passion between them undimmed by time or familiarity. When they came up for air, Amara traced his jaw with her fingers. "I love you, Jung Min-jae. I love the life we've built together. I love you more," he countered. "You gave me everything I didn't know I needed. A home, a family, a reason to be better than I was." He placed his hand over hers on her stomach. "Thank you for choosing me, even when I was too intense, too possessive, too much." "You were never too much," Amara said firmly. "You were exactly what I needed, what I still need." They stood like that, wrapped in each other, their daughter sleeping down the hall, another child growing between them, and felt nothing but gratitude for the impossible love that had changed both their lives. Years later, when people asked Amara about her love story, she would smile and say it started with danger and ended with forever. She would talk about the man who'd claimed her in an elevator with just a look, who'd protected her fiercely, who'd loved her completely despite every obstacle. And when they asked if she'd ever regretted taking such a crazy risk on a man she barely knew, she would laugh and pull her husband close. "Never," she would say, "because some loves are worth the danger. Some loves are worth the fear. And some loves are worth everything." Min-jae would kiss her then, still possessive, still intense, still utterly devoted. "Forever," he would promise. "You're mine forever." "Forever," Amara would agree. And she meant it, because their story wasn't just about passion or danger or overcoming obstacles. It was about two souls recognizing each other and refusing to let go. It was about a love that conquered trauma, fear, and every attempt to tear them apart. It was about choosing each other every day through everything. And that kind of love was worth any price. Jung Min-jae never stopped being insatiable when it came to his wife, never stopped looking at her like she was the center of his universe, never stopped touching her like he couldn't believe she was real, never stopped loving her with an intensity that sometimes overwhelmed them both. And Amara wouldn't have had it any other way, because being married to Korea's most insatiable man meant being loved with a passion that never dimmed, being cherished beyond measure, being protected fiercely, and being claimed so completely that nothing and no one could ever come between them. On their 5th anniversary, as they stood overlooking the city from their home, their 2 children sleeping inside, Min-jae pulled Amara close. "Do you ever wish things had been different? Easier?" Amara looked up at him, this man who'd become her everything. "Not for a second. I'd walk through that danger 1,000 times to end up right here with you." He kissed her then, and the passion between them ignited as it always did. Later, that night, after making love until Amara was deliciously exhausted in the way only he could make her, she lay in his arms and thought about that first night. About how she'd whispered she couldn't walk. She was so tired. About how overwhelming his love had been from the very beginning. It still was. Jung Min-jae still loved her with an intensity that left her breathless, still claimed her body and soul with a hunger that seemed infinite, still looked at her like she hung the moon. And every morning, when she woke up in his arms, Amara thanked whatever fate had put her in that elevator. Because finding Jung Min-jae hadn't just changed her life. It had given her one worth living. A life full of love, passion, family, and a man who would move mountains to keep her safe. A life where "I can't walk, I'm so tired" was followed by "I love you," and arms that would always hold her. A life where danger had led to forever, and fear had transformed into the deepest love she'd ever known. That was their story, and it was everything. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to K-Seoul Afro Stories channel for more romantic stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat.